Please help me pay off my college debt. Alright, so here's the deal. As I write this, it's the day before this video goes public, and I'd all but completed editing it as of last night. Then, as I rest cozily in my bed, Tricky Tony decided that a random update would be the perfect way to finally give us the huge friend lore dump via Pink that we've been sorely missing, just before I upload my video about the scarcity of that sort of thing with Pink and other gastrisms. Thanks, Tony! We now know Pink knew of someone who had an army of cats who are meant to hunt down others, who eventually went into hiding and changed their appearance. Definitely gesturing towards more of the Des and Chris shelter stuff as well as Chris's hand, more or less confirming Friend is a hive mind, and also includes the Forgotten Man as being in on this too, more concretely, as his protein-rich eggs are also a requirement to getting this dialogue. Beyond this replacing the original intro, the rest of the video will remain as is, both for my own sanity and due to the major points in my current theory having not been changed, but when you hear things that no longer make sense, now you know why. Without further ado, here's the otherwise now significantly outdated video. So let's start with what Hatsune Pinku here has in common with her predecessors. For the more obvious one, she's the one who gives or allows access to the Shadow Crystal of the chapter, as well as having the freedom motif in her battle theme. Just as with Spimp and Neo, Gerson, and Eram, Pink is also taking after characters and traits from Undertale bosses, but is also just the same character plus the sentient body, which makes things even stranger. In fact, not only with Mad Mew Mew and allusions to Muffet and Papyrus, but this is the second Bluke derivative secret boss in Deltarune, and also is puppet and cat element. I don't know if that means anything. Onward, there are more minor aspects like the relation to a shop in the chapter, through which you get the key of some sort to unlock the battle. Said shop had its themes directly foreshadowed by Chris in the previous chapter via the piano cover, so I'd say that this is more likely to mean something. Then there's probably what's the most important non-material contribution that Pink has going on, in that she is actually two characters. The soul and the body vying for control instead of working together, is also partially visualized by both of them having green strings attached to their hands at one point. Now, where have we seen those sorts of things before? But in all seriousness, yeah, that's a pretty significant allusion to Chris and the player. However, that's about as far as it goes. So, now for the everything else. Alright, there are quite a few areas that our Vocaloid feline falters with her performance, in that the majority of the thematics and non-musical motifs are just not there. Pink's got the freedom motif, yes, but absolutely no relation to the concept of freedom, much less in the same way of outstanding comprehension of her world and the meta. She doesn't even get the iconic "the air crackles with freedom" line or any meaningful abridgment of that three standard secret bosses had before her. Likewise, with how these characters have their theory of freedom, Pink also lacks in any relation to the weird root whatsoever. Even Jevil has that down, and Jevil doesn't get anything.
I can do anything.
Oh, would you shut up? And then there are things where all of this stems from. Pink's got neither business with nor reference to Gaster anywhere to be seen. Triply so if you notice that there is no relation or proximity to Friend when it comes to Pink or her quest. Yeah, the pink and yellow cat secret boss from the field of pink and gold has no current relation to the secret boss related Gaster cat with eyes of pink and yellow, who is red now for some reason. Well, that may not be entirely the case. Not the red part, the link part, because Pink has one singular thing that might signify something of a connection beyond the shadow crystals. She's got a Michael bomb. This is going to be tough, as we're still fresh off the heels of Chapter 5 with no supplemental info on Chapter 6 yet, but I'm still about to propose something for Pink's relevance. It all starts with the previously mentioned, strangely absent pink and yellow cat-shaped hole in Pink's pink and yellow cat-shaped situation. Friend. A thing that clearly Toby knew many of us theory-pilled fans were expecting at this point. Gee, I wonder where he got that from. To such a degree that Shaman and Rouse were really playing up the bit. The former even actually got me in my first playthrough. And yet, again, Friend has a rather unique appearance in this chapter, while nonetheless having no major presence in Flower Kingdom, much less with Pink. Why? Well, I believe this is another one of Toby's classic fake-outs, the sort of red herring that's initially built up to seem of import, then appearing to betray the expectation, only for the supposed misconception and punchline to develop and culminate into something that involves both, greatly enhancing the full truth. He's been doing this to us since Undertale, and he has only continued since. In other words, I suggest that we're currently on stage 2 of 3 in that process. The rug has been pulled out from under us, and we only have hints of the fact that it's about to be slapped right down back on top of us. In yet more other words, this is an exceptionally rare and yet unencountered opportunity for us to have met a pre-gastrapilled character who we'd eventually see get gastrapilled before our very eyes. And how might that proverbial rug squashing happen in Deltarune's future? And how does that involve Friend? For this, I reckon we needn't look any further than the OGs of Friend edging and tomfoolery, the fake mics. Their whole thing since even Chapter 2 released, before we even knew there were fakes, has been that they're individuals believed to be this important mic character, revealed not to be so, while still having lots of evidence for the gastro-derived Friend being the real mic, to the point of Friend itself appearing in the Batat minigame with a freedom motif. Whoa, Nelly, I'm sorry, the Batat motif! While further alluding to Friend being partially responsible for the shelter incident, thus making Flower Kingdom's major colors something of a sick, cosmic mockery towards Asgore. But if Pink is supposed to get involved with Friend and the larger Gastro Nexus like her precursors did, there should probably be a lead-in rather than Pink setting foot in Castletown and immediately getting struck with calamity. What if Pink uses her knack for dating sims, catitude, and working her way around a microphone to join up with the mics, becoming the 4th and 5th fake after the real one mysteriously disappeared after a contract was signed, making Hatsune Pinku into Hatsune Miku. But this situation would probably make Batat have a conniption. In any case, Pink would be taken in, perhaps perform her concerts in Lightner's Live, well, Newer's Live in her case, or having a simplified dating sim, especially fitting as they're no longer a throuple, but a couple. Or would it be a fipple? That sounds dirty. But it's due to this proximity and amalgamation of cohesive themes that this is where Friend's time to strike might be. With how much I've been talking this up so far, I'm not certain as to how much grandiosity this will be vested with in this theoretical scenario, thus suggesting what said scenario would be like. I suppose it depends in part if recruitment is dependent on beating her in her boss fight, or if she's taken back like everyone else by default. But still, she's going to be the only Castletown resident that's a secret boss, and is also a Lightner like our heroes, if only partially. Something has to happen. The Occam's Razor route, as far as this level of theory crafting is concerned anyway, would be to have Pink get visited by Friend proper, some very, very interesting stuff happens, and having her spiral like the classics from there. Alternatively, Maddie could get booted out of Mew Mew to instead be possessed by Friend, since Gastra's Kitty already has something to do with the soul anyway. Or maybe she and perhaps Batat and Pluie, being the closest or most invested in the Friend mic brand, would wind up going missing, leaving Jungler behind, kinda like how what Fangamer did with their merch. Nevertheless, there's a more allegorical reason for why I advocate so much for this. Pink lied her way into being accepted by Orange as one of Asgore's flowers, yet even after being exposed as a fraud, she would later be accepted among them with open arms anyway. It's this for which I believe Pink, despite her currently being so late on the established conventions of a secret boss, will go from being neither the other secret bosses nor the Mike's 5th to being both of their 5ths, both for better and for worse. Although, being real, I genuinely am unsure as to what ends this sort of thing would have, beyond going deeper into the soul-body coupling themes going on, which could still be fitting for how we the player dominate Chris's actions for the game's sake. I still have nothing more. Then again, since every other shadow boss has something to do with the weird route, even if at least referentially, perhaps this could mean that Pink would serve in the event of her fulfilling her gastroisms that she'd currently be lacking in, going from one-sided comfort to discourse, strong discourse, then finally to harmony, but like evil harmony, as that's what Chris and eventually Noelle have going on themselves. It is a little strange to be talking about Pink regarding the weird route, as you can only fight her in the normal route and shattered normal route, as I like to call it, since in the true weird route, we, Chris and Noelle, kinda dip, so to speak. So I guess that part makes sense. But still, if even Jevil can have some relevance to the weird route, even mostly as a clown-shaped buzzword source and information hazard, then I'm sure Pink can contribute to the madness in some way that doesn't involve her having to look into her own shadow crystal. If I'm totally wrong about Pink herself being the subject of Friend's ire or desire, she could still gain cosmic meta-knowledge or wisdom like Gerson did without direct Gastry intervention, though, let's be honest, I don't think the mics as a whole are getting out of this unscathed. And with that, I suppose that's everything I wanted to say about Pink for now. Certainly the most unconventional secret boss we've ever gotten, in terms of importance and involvement, that is. However, I hope that this video did serve to give a decent enough proposition for how the Ghost Darkner duo may better conform to the conventions of what came before them. I hope that I'm at least partially right about this. Unrelated, but I did upload my Weird Root playthrough for any of y'all who might want to watch it, though it is unlisted, but you can watch it in the upper right corner. With all that done, I and others of my ilk have work to do, getting our stuff straight once again, while also minding the time before Noelle now officially joins back with the fun gang, and before all hell breaks loose, now that the sun has set. I hope to see y'all soon for what I do next.